It might be late August, but it's always F the Boston Celtics. If you're with me, just spam those F Bostons down below because we're talking about the Celtics today and how their downfall maybe could be great news for the Miami Heat. I am Nick Roloff. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. And the Heat did just get great news because they could have gotten horrible news, but it has turned around to potentially great news. What could the horrible news have been? Well, you saw the thumbnail. You might be wondering why Jeff Bezos is on there. Well, Bill Simmons, who obviously has the Bill Simmons podcast and is an insider in the NBA, Celtics superfan, reported on his podcast, if you will, that there has been buzz around Jeff Bezos buying the Boston Celtics. He thought that there really could have been one of the suitors for the new Celtics ownership, as the current group was going to sell and is going to sell. And if we're going to be honest here, Jeff Bezos being the Boston Celtics owner would be absolutely horrible. Like, it would. Like, Bezos owning the Celtics would just be so dang bad for the NBA and for the Heat specifically, because when you have empty pockets like Jeff Bezos does, it's not something that really is going to be good because they could just pay all the contracts necessary, not have to worry about going into the second apron, and it's really, truly inspirational. It would be terrible for the Miami Heat and the NBA in realistic terms. But luckily, I don't think that's actually going to be the case. And this is the great news that the Heat received, because over the past 24 hours, I was a little bit concerned that Jeff Bezos was going to be the owner of the Boston Celtics. But here we are, folks. Nick Wingfield of The Information reported that no, Jeff Bezos doesn't plan to bid on the Boston Celtics. Scoop from me in The Information. But they also had a different report from Front Office Sports, so it doesn't look like Jeff Bezos is going to be buying the Boston Celtics. And I know you might be thinking, Nick, why are we talking about the Boston Celtics and their ownership group right now? Well, it does actually impact Miami in the landscape of the NBA in the next 5 to 10 years. And it's fantastic news that he might not be the owner. Now, whoever does own the team eventually is probably going to be very rich and willing to spend money, but at least it won't be the richest person in the world. Actually, is he the most richest? I don't even know anymore. Is it him or Elon, Tex? Tex says it's Bezos. I think I would agree with that. I feel like Elon just got passed. But either way, it's fantastic that Jeff Bezos is not going to be the owner of the Boston Celtics, because it would have been a cheat code. When you think of everything that the Celtics have on their roster right now, they are doling out a lot of money to their players. And it's going to force them to go into the second apron of the luxury tax, which may not be an issue for someone that has the amount of money that a Jeff Bezos has. But if it's a different owner who doesn't have that much money, granted, it's still a lot of money relatively to us people over here, it's still going to be a different story. And it's really good for Miami that that's not the case, because when we look at what the contract situation is for the Boston Celtics, it is crazy. Tatum's contract is crazy. Brown's contract is crazy. Jrue Holiday, Derrick White, like, it just goes on and on and on and on his specific contract. Like, think about it. Jayson Tatum, 5-year, 313. Jaylen Brown, 5 for 285. Holiday, 4 for 134. Like, you see these numbers just continue to stack up for the Boston Celtics. These are expensive, and it totals over $988 million totally. Like, it almost is a bill. Yes, $1 billion, and that's just 7 players on the roster. And if you didn't know, 14 players are on the roster. So that would be very, very tough to pay for anyone, no matter who it is. But it would be easier for the Celtics as a team to continue to build out their roster with someone who has the deepest pockets in the entire world. So yes, it is fantastic news for the Miami Heat that Jeff Bezos has no interest, according to those reports, to being someone that owns the Boston Celtics. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, though, because this is why. Whether it be news, trade rumors, other rumors, we drop daily videos on everything pertaining to the Miami Heat. Something goes around the Boston Celtics, we're going to talk about it because it's going to affect the Miami Heat for sure. Hit that sub button and join us here at the channel. Well, this is a little bit interesting now because if Bezos not the owner, I think it's still a good time to look at the timeline of the Boston Celtics and what their ownership group has planned because their group right now, which is led by Wick Grusbeck, if I said that name correctly, they are expected to sell the majority of their interest and stake in the team this year or early in 2025 during the NBA season, with the entire majority being sold by 2028. So the new owner or ownership group or whoever it is would be fully running and owning the team in 2028, which brings me to this question. Are the ownership group and people that currently own the team going to be willing to pay all of those contracts given out by Brad Stevens while they are in the current state of selling the team? Because just think about this. If they are profiting and making a lot of money off of the Boston Celtics, which you would expect they are. It's one of the most profitable sports teams in the entire NBA, but also the entire world. You think they're making money, but then why are they selling? Like seriously, like why are they selling? It's one of the most well-recognized names in all of sports in a great city that has winning success. I don't get why they're selling unless it's a money issue. And if it is a money issue, then are they going to be willing to pay the almost $1 billion that they need to dole out to 7 players over the next 3 to 5 seasons? I don't know if that's going to be the case. We'll continue this conversation here, but make sure you do get this Miami Heat t-shirt on sale right now, by the way. $20 off, chatsports.com/Heat shirt. That link is in the description and comments of today's show. We know it's still hot in Miami or wherever you are. It's still summertime, heading into the fall. Never a bad time to grab a Miami Heat shirt, though. It's going to be tough to navigate for the Boston Celtics, though. Regardless of who the ownership is, they are just so far past the second apron, and I just am really questioning on how they are going to really go through this process as a organization and as an ownership group. They are a second apron team for the next 2 seasons and likely going to be a third because unless they cut one of those players in that third season from now, they're just $7 million underneath the second apron. And are they going to be able to fill 7 roster spots with $7 million? No, they are not. So they're going to be a second apron team unless one of their players of Tatum, Brown, Holiday, White, Porzingis is gone, which is why I think it's important to talk about this because these second apron restrictions are so punitive and so restrictive, you don't want to be in there. Teams have been trying to dip, dodge, duck, dive, and dodge the second apron for the past year and a half ever since it was announced these restrictions were going to come into play. So these long-term effects that are going to impact the Celtics could ultimately have a domino effect on who is on their roster. Because of how restrictive these things are, you can't trade a first-round pick. It's frozen for 7 years if you're a second apron team for consecutive seasons. Like, they don't want to do that. So are they going to be moving off Derrick White, Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum? Not all of them, obviously, but one of those 5 in a move to get underneath the second apron? I don't think it's the most ludicrous thing to think that's a possibility, and it's why this benefits Miami. Because if the Heat played their cards right, they could be dominating the Eastern Conference in 2 to 3 seasons. Just think about what their timeline is. Sure, they want to try to compete with Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and the crew right now. And they will be competitive. They'll be a playoff team this year and the year after. But when Jimmy Butler moves on, what is their backup plan? And with the Celtics entering these cap situations, the 76ers are really good now. Are they going to be able to sustain that with large contracts to an old injury Joel Embiid and an injured old Paul George? Can Tyrese Maxey lead a team? I don't know. So some of these teams are going to continue to decline and have to shed rosters and shed key players, and there will only be a select few teams that could rise from the ashes, like Miami, Indiana, Orlando, maybe New York there as well with the Knicks because they have a pretty young team. But either way, if the Heat play their cards right, don't get in too many restrictive areas themselves and pounce with some assets on a potential good player to pair with Bam Adebayo, who's entering his prime 30, 31 seasons in 2 to 3 years, well, that's when the window for the Miami Heat to really capitalize and win an NBA title could be upon us. Which sparks this question. When will the Heat win their next title? We've had 2 opportunities to capture ring number 4 in 2020 and 2023. Ultimately came up short against the Lakers and Nuggets respectively. But predict it. When will the Heat win their next championship? I am willing to go on the record right now and say that the Miami Heat will win their 4th title before the year 2030. We got 24-25, 25-26, 26-27, 27-28, 28-29, and then 29-30. So we got 6 years, 6 seasons to get this accomplished. I believe it's possible because, like I said, I think Bam Adebayo is going to be a consensus top 15 player in each of the next 6 seasons because he's only going to be 33, 34 at the end of this stretch, and how good he is defensively. He's going to improve his craft offensively and his jump shot as well. He is going to be one of those guys you can count on day in and day out, and if you get elevations from Hawkes, Jovic, they continue to improve. You pounce with some assets on other stars that could come available in free agency or in the trade market. I think it's very doable for the Miami Heat to win a championship by the time the 2020s are over and we're fully in the 2030. So that is my prediction down below. All right, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Daily content coming on a daily basis. It's the slowest part of the offseason. There's no debating that. But we are a month and a week, about 5 weeks away from training camp being here, which means we're about 2 months away from the NBA season actually being started. So make sure you are subscribed because we're going to have the best coverage on a daily basis surrounding the Miami Heat.